Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 70 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts. I am the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez, and let's bring in my co-host, Mr. JC Blue Note, James Cornetti. And Jim, happy week off, and happy Mother's Day to your mom on the hiatus week.
It was a very good week. We were just talking off the air. I'm ready to kind of go back to work, not so much to kind of get out of the grind because I didn't leave the apartment for 4 of the 9 days I was off. I mean, I didn't have a car for 3 of them, but just all the emails I'm going to have to go through.
Dude, preach on it. That's 1 day off for me.
But
thank God I bring my laptop home.
I actually emailed our HR rep because like every month they send out like performance bonus things, and it's like I responded with it, and she's like, "What are you doing logging in on your day off?" It's like, just going through some of this so I can line up so I can actually get all these emails done because I got a short week next week too.
Yeah, same here. What is it? I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm off Friday. I'm off next Tuesday. And then they're going to her dad's for 3 days. I'm on my own. Which is never good.
Wise Guys on the week after.
No shit. We can go to bed at a decent hour. But we will actually not be with you next weekend. We'll be with you next Thursday. We'll get to that toward the end of the show and the second half of the blast. But James, we got a bunch to get through in the hat trick. And let's start somewhere. I don't know if you ever thought you would start an episode with me ever, my friend. Let's get to the hat trick.
It's the 3 biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
And how overly appropriate as we start with the conference finals. And we're going to start with the NHL because the NBA is a sore spot for you and I. As the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers will take the ice in New York. Is it tomorrow night?
Yeah, game 1 will be tomorrow night. And then you have Dallas and Vancouver against the winner of Vancouver and Edmonton. And game 6 of that series is currently ongoing right now in Edmonton. And with 16-14 left in the second period, it's a 1-1 game.
Which I will now that Oliver, which now that I have access to it, I will actually turn it on when we get to halftime, and I'll have it on here for live updates during the blast. But Jim, let's talk about that Florida New York Rangers series, and let's start. I want to start with the Rangers and how they ended Carolina's season.
Yeah,
that was some 13 minutes out of that team.
That was it. I'm actually surprised that it went 6 with the way that they got up 3-0 in that series. Just what a testament to how good the Rangers are, considering we talked at the start of the season in free agency. We were about ready to pencil in Carolina for the Stanley Cup just with the moves that they made in the free agency period.
No, agreed. And I was more impressed. Now, being a Ranger fan growing up and really 94 getting into it and watching Mike Richter and going into Henrik Lundqvist, this dude's playing great.
Igor Shesterkin, yeah, there's a reason. I mean, he was a Vezina winner a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he wasn't with the Rangers when he won the Vezina, was he?
I believe he was. I believe the Rangers have been the only team he's really played for.
Okay, but I will say this. I'm having flashbacks to Mike Richter. I really am.
You know, this is good. You've got Shesterkin against Sergei Bobrovsky. This is going to be very, very eerie of that 94 series where you had Richter against Van Beesbrook.
And, well, never mind that. Let's talk about the conference final that year when you had Richter against Marty Brodeur.
Yeah.
Van Beesbrook that's right. He was in net for Ottawa that year. Not Ottawa, Vancouver.
No, Kirk McLean was in net for them.
Where was,
Van Beesbrook was in Florida.
okay. That was the semifinal series then, because I
Yeah,
know the conference
because
finals was him and Marty Brodeur.
right, because and then he backstopped them to the Stanley Cup Finals in '96, where they got swept by Colorado.
That's right. That's right. So I'm looking forward to this. I will actually watch this series.
This is going to be a great series. Now, Game 1 with Dallas and against the winner of Vancouver and Edmonton, I think is going to be Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I think that Florida series may not start until Monday or Tuesday as well. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow because I think they were actually talking about how well rested the Rangers are going to be.
Yeah, Wednesday night, the 22nd, live from Madison Square Garden. At 8 o'clock on ESPN or ESPN Plus is Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, because they can't start that one until the West one finishes up as well, because they're going to be going back and forth. It's going to be ESPN and then TBS, ESPN and then TNT. So you're going to basically, the working agreement that Disney and Turner have is that you're going to get one on the other network, just depending on where the NBA finals are, or NBA playoffs and conference finals are going to be. One's going to go on TBS, the other one's going to go on TNT.
Well, ESPN so far has all the games in the Eastern Conference Finals because it's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Right now, the first 3 games that ESPN had on the app just now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this one's going to go 7.
You would think so, but I think remember the Rangers won the President's Trophy. The Panthers weren't that far behind, and the Panthers are healthy and just beat the living hell out of the Boston Bruins in 6 in that series.
I mean, that makes both of us smile.
Especially when you see Rat Marchand get injured and miss 2 games in that series, and then in the final 10 seconds with them up 3-2, Matty Tkachuk is literally skating around center ice celebrating right in the face of like Charlie McAvoy, in TD Garden.
It always brings me joy when a Boston team gets the piss beat out of them. I will ask this question though: who's a bigger villain? Hi, Luna. Marchand or Jack Eichel?
Right now, Jacob Trouba with the Rangers.
Dude, when he went flying at the guy from Carolina, did you hear what PK Subban said on McAfee?
I did. Yeah, you sent that to me. There's a part for that. Mike, go ahead. I don't want to say play the clip, but kind of summarize it for context.
Well, basically, PK Subban told him that he told McAfee he had no problem with him going after him, and he had thought originally when he saw it that the elbow was going up to try and brace him against the boards. It wasn't. But he was basically saying, listen, you're walking around here like you're in Battery Park. You need to walk around like you're in Harlem. And your head's got to be on a swivel. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
However, but that's a cheap fucking hit. And Trouba, dude, the worst part of that wasn't that he missed him. Is Trouba the one that whiffed on the guy last year that we made fun of him for?
Yes.
Okay.
That was, last year, 2 years ago. Yup. The one that we had fun with Steve Dangle, where you basically pissed yourself there.
Dude. I mean, he missed that guy like John Carlos Stanton misses a fucking slider.
Yep.
He was nowhere near it. But that's not even the best part about that. Did you see that dude from Carolina took a skate to the back of the fucking dome?
Yeah.
At least it was the boot part, not the blade. But that's like, and yes, Trouba's a villain. But I tell you what, he fits in well with that team.
And especially that kid that they have. I can't think of his name right now, but that rookie that they have who ended up at one point having more suspension minutes than actual playing minutes.
Oh, we were talking about him when we were brought up the fight between them and the Devils. Which, if you haven't seen it,
Matt Rempe.
I just looked it up. He just popped up. Yeah, and he's going to be more talented version of Stifler's character from Goon. So,
yeah, I got a feeling he's going to be, and here's going to be a name in the Wayback Machine that you're going to remember. he's going to be, I think, a more talented offensive version of a Darian Hatcher.
Jesus.
I think he's taller. I think he's faster. I think he's got, I don't want to say he's got a better shot, but I think he's a little bit better of a playmaker than Darian Hatcher was. And Darian Hatcher was a great defenseman for a lot of years with the Stars.
Yes, he was. And Jim, I got to give you one of these. That is a quality Darian Hatcher reference, sir.
And it pains me to say that because I hated Darian Hatcher for
I don't think anybody liked that son of a bitch.
I liked him off the ice, but he was tormenting all the teams that I was following in the Central. He tormented Nashville. He tormented he tormented my Blues for years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's hop over to the Western Conference real quick. And since we're going to be there before next Saturday, what do you say we do predictions on Thursday night?
Okay.
But let's talk to the Western Conference right now in that Vancouver-Edmonton series going to 6 games. Did you and I talk about this where I thought it was going to go 6 or 7 and you had said you thought it was going to be earlier, or was that flipped? I can't remember.
No, you were right. I actually was thinking that that Stuart Skinner was going to be kind of the linchpin with Edmonton. He's now back in net. They sat him for a couple of games. I think right now Vancouver is just clicking, and game 1 of that Stars Western Conference final is going to be in Dallas because they had the best record in the West. I think honestly, Edmonton poses a little bit better matchup, but I think Vancouver is more talented than Dallas would be. I think the Dallas-Vancouver series would be a little bit more of a shootout where if it was Edmonton, you would actually see Stuart Skinner and Jake Ottinger. It would be a goaltenders type duel.
See, I don't know. I guess it's because I was a pitcher, but I like the defensive series. I like the series when the goaltenders stand on their head, as opposed to games where, the Winnipeg Jets score more points in the playoffs than the New York Jets do.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just me. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. I honestly, I've been paying more attention to hockey this year. I'm throwing names out to you, and you're kind of looking at me like, hey, he really is, but he's not just blowing smoke up my ass. But I'm going to watch the Rangers series. I know my old man is going to be watching the Rangers as well. There's some stuff going on, I'll tell you off the air, but he'll be paying attention to that too. He's still a big Ranger fan. So yeah.
But let's throw over to the NBA now. We've got three positions undecided for, and the conference finals are going to start, I want to say, on Tuesday or Wednesday themselves.
Yeah, Boston's going to be very, very rested, and that Knicks Indiana series is a harkening back to that '90s Knicks Pacers rivalry. They are beating the piss out of each other in that series.
And especially after that 40-point beatdown that Indiana put on the Knicks, and they actually have the turnaround with the 3:30 start time tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be rough, especially on a Knicks roster that is hurting left, right, and center.
Josh Hart actually says he's going to try to play, but I mean, honestly, if his injury is 1/10 of the pain that they were showing him on of what Jarrett Allen ended up having, I don't know how he's going to be able to be any sort of effective at all. He only had 5 points and 8 rebounds in 31 minutes on Friday night.
Yeah, that's not good for them. Let me go back to the semifinal series. We're going to talk about the Cavs a little bit more. Boston is who we thought they were. I'm going to tell you this right now. If either of those two teams bang them around and like the Cavaliers didn't, Boston's going to have to really do some soul searching.
Yeah, for the Cavaliers to kind of expose Boston being as undermanned as they are, I think the Knicks pose a little bit bigger matchup problem with their length, but I think Indiana's got the better shooting capability than Boston doesn't. I think Boston still comes out on top on this one, regardless of who they get, but I think that they're going to be a little bit more banged up going into a final playing the Knicks than they would Indiana.
Agreed. I will put this caveat on it. If Indiana gets done in the Garden tomorrow, look for Tyrese Halliburton to be a fucking problem. for the Boston Celtics.
Oh,
Especially since Woj announced that Porzingis is not playing at minimum games 1 and 2 of the finals starting next week.
yeah, it's Halliburton's going to be a problem, but really they are getting so many contributions from so many other players right
They
now
really are.
that this is I mean, we all thought that the Pacers would be maybe a play-in team, and here they are, one game away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and giving Boston as much as they can handle.
You know, the two teams we thought were going to be playing teams at the beginning of the year, Orlando and Indiana, really, even though Orlando went out in the first round, a good showing for a young core. Indiana, a really good showing for this young core and possibly a trip to the conference finals. Let me ask you this. Better future, Orlando or Indiana?
I got to go Orlando. I'm sorry. I have to go Indiana because you cannot count out, as great as Paolo Banchero kind of came on in these playoffs in that first round, you cannot argue against Tyrese Halliburton. I think Indiana's got a better core right now.
I'm going to go the other way only because I think Orlando's a little bit younger, and they have, first of all, I think they have a better chance to mature into that role than Indiana does. I don't know if the Pacers are going to keep this team together as long as Orlando's going to be incentivized to keep this team together.
I think Orlando's going to be a little bit bigger of a problem in the playoffs because they're quickly becoming the class of that division. Miami's going to start coming back, and then you look at the other teams in there: Washington, Charlotte, and who am I forgetting? Washington and Charlotte are not going to be anything. And then, it was right on the tip of my tongue. I actually should have said first.
Philly?
No. Atlanta.
I should have known that.
Because, I mean, Atlanta's good, but, I mean, really, they go and they come on the back of Trae Young, and how much longer are they going to rumor to keep him around?
I don't think they're going to keep him around much longer. There's a lot of people saying he's going to the Lakers. There's a lot of people saying he's going somewhere else. I mean, the offseason in the NBA is going to be insanity, especially with something we're going to talk about a little bit in the blast later on. Just speaking of the other series right now, you have Denver and Minnesota. Did you hear what Ant said to the people in Denver?
Yeah, I actually did see that a little bit earlier today.
I will see y'all motherfuckers for Game 7.
Well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander may be saying that to the people of Dallas because that was a very close game coming out of the half, and Oklahoma City's just blown it open by 13 early in the third.
It was 10 at the half. It was 10 at the half. I literally just pulled the ESPN up. It just went to part of the third. And here's what kills me about that series. Kyrie's disappeared.
I think he had a pretty good game 5, although, yeah, that was Luka. But, he has kind of disappeared here. Could we be on? I mean, if Oklahoma City holds up with this, my God, is Boston going to be rested because we're going to have 3 Game 7s out of the four rounds here.
Yeah, and I think that rest is going to get Boston to the finals. I don't think it's going to be play. I don't think it's going to be any of that stuff because you figure they beat Miami in 5. Cleveland goes 7, loses Jared Allen. Donovan Mitchell gets hurt. Karis LeVert gets hurt and re-aggravates the injury the next round. Boston's going to have a run to the finals, much like Golden State had runs to the finals in the first part of the decade or the last decade, where you didn't play anybody at full strength.
Right.
So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of days, especially when you got the Knicks tomorrow. You have Denver, and is Denver, Minnesota tomorrow too?
Yes. They're the Indiana game's at 3:30, and then Minnesota-Denver game 7 is at 8.
And then you're going to have on Monday is going to be Oklahoma City and Dallas in the game
Dallas.
7 if Oklahoma City holds on.
At 8:30 on Monday night, and then game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals would start on Tuesday night in the Garden. Question: what's been more entertaining of a series right now, the Knicks and Indiana, or that Denver Minnesota series?
The Denver Minnesota series, because to the Knicks. I don't pay attention to them. I cannot stomach the New York Knicks.
But
Poverty franchise that got lucky.
Minnesota goes in to Denver. The first 2 games annihilates them. We figured this series could be a sweep. And now we've got game 7 coming up tomorrow night.
And that's because I think Denver finally realized how they had to play against this Minnesota team. If you look at it, and I did watch a little bit of game 3, that was defensive adjustments. That wasn't even anything on the offensive end of the floor that Denver did differently. They're still running through Jokic. Jamal Murray has been hit or miss in this series, unlike what he was against the Lakers. And they made defensive adjustments. And I think that Minnesota's played a little bit too much Rudy Gobert on Jokic one-on-one.
Yeah, it's I mean, Anthony Edwards is going to get his. He's gone off every game this series, but really outside of maybe him, and you're not getting consistent play between Gobert and Towns, down low. Conley's chipped in a little bit, but it's really been no consistency since the first 2 games when they ran the score up.
And we'll talk about running the score up. That final in game 6 was insanity. But I will say this. You're going into Denver for a game 7 in the Joker's house.
With the chance of defending their title on the line.
Exactly. This series reminds me of the way that Golden State Cavaliers final series went. 2 big wins for the one team. The other team rights the ship. Game 7 is going to be the one that's the only one's going to be within 10 points. So that's going to be an interesting game 7. And in Oklahoma City and Dallas, I don't think Dallas can get it done in Oklahoma City in a game 7.
I don't either. And I think it's all a matter, could Oklahoma City sneak through into the finals as the number 1 overall seed because of how bad Denver and Minnesota have beaten the shit out of each other for the last week and a half.
I think we're going to get both number 1 seeds in the finals because the other teams have just beaten the piss out of each other. And which, listen, it happens. It's playoffs, but that's a bullshit fucking way to get a final, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, we remember that Golden State got there twice on the heels of, something like that. It's Draymond should have been suspended. They kicked, he kicked Steven Adams in the groin twice. Should have been
the first time they played a fully healthy roster in those first 2 years was the 2016 finals.
Right. It's, guy steps out on Kawhi and Kawhi goes down, it's in 2015, or otherwise the Cavs would have been going for back-to-back titles in 2016.
Agreed, because they would have pulled. Well, yeah, and then of course you have not Golden State. You have Oklahoma City choked the shit out of that series.
Yeah.
It's weird shit happens in the playoffs. Just ask Harrison Butker, but we'll get into that later too.
Yeah. Speaking of. We got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, but I want to focus on that last part. Find me a team in the NBA with those 3 type players hurt on their roster who wins a series.
Yeah, it's definitely it's certainly argumentative here, but we also have to think. Taking off the wine-colored glasses, we had to see this was coming.
You and I talked about this. I said if they could play consistently, they could steal one in Boston, which they did when they beat the shit out of Boston in game 2. And game 1 wasn't as it was a blowout, but it wasn't as if you watched it, it wasn't as big as the final score showed. We've had a lot of games where the scores were close late that just weren't ever close. This one was a blowout that was close for a good part of it.
Yeah, but you and I didn't talk very much this past week while I was off. So you actually forgot that I was off for a couple of those days.
We had a death in the family in New York, so
I'm sorry.
It was rough. Dude, this week was shit. But yeah, no, go on. I'm sorry.
But, didn't I actually say it one of the times that we were on the phone that Boston was going to win game one, the Cavs were going to steal one, and then they play close, and then they would just basically, something would happen, and they would just lay down and just run out of gas or quit at that point.
First of all,
and it just so happened, I don't want to say that they quit, but, let's be honest. I understand that, guys are hurt. You couldn't actually one of those guys couldn't play game 5.
You know what? It really depends on what the injury was. Jared Allen, first of all, apparently was still having trouble breathing with the rib injury. For Donovan Mitchell, who, put up 50 in game 6 against Orlando and then had 3 phenomenal games against Boston, to not play games 4 and 5, Jim, he had to be hurt. I don't know what was wrong with Karis LeVert, not that he played well in that series.
I think he played very well in game 4.
He did play very well.
He was one of the catalysts that kept them in that game.
Agreed. And listen,
they had no business being anywhere close to.
No, and game 5, that team that went in there extremely shorthanded played phenomenal in that game 5. And yes, it was a big loss, but again, no Mitchell, no Allen, no LeVert. That's tough because you're talking about your starting center, your starting 2 guard, your best player in your roster, and the 6th man off the bench. Jim, nobody wins that game. Nobody. Let's put it this way. That's like the Joker, Jamal Murray, and pick a guy is done. That's like let's go to the other side, and that'd be like Rudy Gobert, Cat, and Ant all being hurt. You're not going to win. You're not. And they didn't roll over. They didn't. They were still playing tough on defense. This was more about mental errors because they made a lot of mental mistakes down the stretch in those last 2 games. And watching game 5, there were some whistles that were blown that were just unfucking real.
I will take your word for that because the second I saw that Allen and LeVert were not going to play, I swear to God, I actually turned on, when was that? Wednesday? I turned on AEW, and the second it was over, the game was actually still in the third quarter at that point. And even with a 15-minute run over, I turned on the switch and I started playing whatever game. It wasn't Warframe for a change. And I didn't even pay attention. I didn't even look up the final score until after midnight because I already knew what the outcome was going to be.
No, and so did I. I watched about 15 minutes of that game on the TV. I had been listening to it on the phone for a little bit. Look, Boston was the number 1 seed for a reason. They were 68-14 for a reason, but I think a fully healthy Cavs team going into that series is a problem because Evan Mobley grew up right in front of our eyes in that series. He's going to be an issue too. So the offseason questions, let's get to those.
Yeah.
So let's start with the one.
And certainly before free agency and the draft comes around, we'd like to get our friend Patrick McGuire on as our Cavs expert here. But yeah, let's dive into this here.
Let's start with the one that got asked the other night during game 4. Are we heading toward a reunion? Because, by the way, they don't have to trade for him. He's got an opt-out. And if they're this, and they can make the money work. Dan Gilbert's probably going to give him part of the fucking franchise at some point.
God, I hope not.
I hope not either.
God, I hope not.
No, I know. But you know what I'm saying?
He's 40 years old. It's,
But let me ask the question. You and I talked about this about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We talked about it with Willie. We've talked about it just us. If he goes there and understands his role is diminished, could a lineup of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen win a title?
Yeah, but there's a caveat with that.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
It's not going to happen because you're going to
You beautiful bastard.
Yeah, you're going to see at least 2, if not 3 of those people that you just named gone.
I disagree with you.
I think that if Donovan comes back, I think Evan Mobley is the only one that's safe. I think if that happens, then Karras, Jared, and Garland are all gone, because there was also a report that I heard on Cleveland radio earlier this week that Donovan is happy in Cleveland. He actually might have a little bit of a disconnect with JB. I think JB, we'll talk about him here in just a second, but I think if Donovan comes back, they've already said that Rich Paul has already said that he would have no problem exploring a possible trade with Darius Garland.
Let me put it to you this way, okay? And this is me, wine-colored glasses off, the whole 9 yards. Should JB Bickerstaff be the head coach of this team? Probably not.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Probably not.
Absolutely.
No, I say probably not, because you got to remember something. The NBA season is 82 games long. He's won 99 games the last 2 years. Name me the other coaches who've won 99 games the last 2 years. The dude in Boston, Denver. That's it. Oh, Thibodeau, I think.
Yeah, Thibodeau.
So, Tibbs.
Yeah.
Tibbs. The schmuck in Boston.
New York finished with a better record than the Cavs both the last 2 years.
Okay, so Tibbs, the dude in Boston, the guy in Denver. So you have the fourth winningest coach in the NBA in the last 2 seasons. Go back to the last 3, you probably have the 5th or 6th highest winning coach in the last 4 seasons. He has gone into each series undermanned. He was undermanned in the play-in because of all the injuries. That team was headed for out of the play-in before everybody and their mother got hurt 3 years ago. Last year, they went in undermanned. They got the one matchup that everybody knew the Cavs were going to have a problem with the Knicks. This year, everybody and their mother got fucking hurt. Can you blame him for a lot of shit? Absolutely. He's got to fix some stuff. Is it his staff? Is it him? Does Kobe Altman need to just start screaming at him? Probably all of those things. He's the 4th or 5th winningest coach in the last few years. We haven't been able to say that about a Cavaliers coach since Lenny Wilkens, Jim, or Mike Fratello. And I'm going past the LeBron years. I'm going past the LeBron years. This is a franchise who, remember, they had to make a rule about getting rid of draft picks.
Yeah.
That was garbage until Lenny Wilkens showed up, except for the 1 year with the miracle at Richfield. Then was garbage again until LeBron got there. It doesn't play to make a change now. That would be a very Jimmy Haslam fucking thing to do.
I completely and totally disagree, because you have to figure that Altman is talking with Bickerstaff in the final few weeks of the regular season. You've got a chance to go out and win the division. And yeah, I understand that the possibility of Philadelphia being your first round opponent is not as appealing, but then you ended up playing down when you had a chance to win the division. You end up playing down. You get blown out by Charlotte by sitting everybody on the final day of the regular season. And then you conceivably could have lost that series against an Orlando team that dramatically overshot. Orlando this year was the Sacramento of last year, who were the Cavs of the year before. Yes, everyone and their mother was hurt down the stretch for Boston. With the exception of really Jared Allen, you were at 100% against Orlando, and you nearly choked that series away. You were down by 18 in the first half, and then Orlando just runs out of gas. You get the home cooking. You get some of the calls going your way. Last year against the Knicks, everyone was basically healthy. You just got run off the floor. The year before, yes, you were hurt, and that was the year before Donovan comes in, and yes, you were overachieving with Sexton and Garland, and yeah, Sexton goes out in the 3rd game of the year. You have a thought that he could have been ready had you actually gotten out of the play-in. Doesn't happen. You get bounced in the 2 games in the play-in on your own floor as that 7 seed. But it's still the fact of The talent is there. The coaching and lack of adjustments are preventing them from getting so much better and advancing so much further. They did not beat Orlando thanks to JB Bickerstaff. They beat Orlando in spite of JB Bickerstaff.
So let me ask this question then. Let me throw some names out. Would you give a JJ Redick a chance here? Because I can tell you, if they make the move that people are speculating about, Luke Walton is not getting this job.
JJ Redick, no previous head coaching experience.
Then who's your guy?
Luke Walton.
You can't bring LeBron in and have Luke Walton be the head coach. It won't happen. They tried that in LA, remember?
That's just it, is that if you're going to actually think about this team for the future, it has to be more than the David Blatt experiment with LeBron, that you bring him in for a year and then think that LeBron's going to go out and get his guy. LeBron's only going to be here a year because he's probably going to end up retiring after next season because of how much wear and tears on his body, and he's done everything. So they have to actually start forecasting for the future, regardless of how many of the core four that you have right now are not going to be here by the time September and training camp rolls around. You've got to actually think past the next year.
I agree with you, and I think getting rid of people in the core four is a way to not think about that. Let's put the LeBron thing aside for a minute. Let's not even go there for right now because it's a pipe dream. He's not going to leave the Lakers, especially if the Lakers are saying they're going to give him whatever he wants and pick his kid in the draft. He's not leaving the Lakers. He'd be stupid to stay there, personally, when you have that home cooking sitting there in a roster better than anything you ever saw when you were wearing those colors. Me personally. If you're thinking for the future, you have the youngest team in the league. One of now, because, Banchero and those boys are real young. SGA and those boys are real young in OKC. You still have a core
exactly
that is under the age of 25.
Right. You've got a very young core in San Antonio. You've got a very young core in Detroit, especially with their draft picks in the last couple of years.
So why are you blowing it up? Why not bring in another voice? Yes, would JJ Redick be a bad pick because he's not a seasoned head coach? I will say this: Luke Walton would be a bad pick because look what the fuck he's done.
Yeah,
zero.
I think he was dealt a really shitty hand because he was basically a LeBron, puppet boy with the Lakers for the year that he was there.
Yeah, but wasn't he the head coach there before LeBron got there?
And that's just it, is that they kept him on trying to force it to work, and it obviously was not going to because LeBron was going to come in and make a power play.
Agreed. And so now here's the other question. If JB is the problem, why are you going to bring in somebody on his staff with the same message? If you're going to get rid of a head coach, you've got to go clean sweep. That is the only thing in the NFL they get fucking right with this stuff. They clean sweep it.
I think it's almost a Browns-like issue with what they have there, is that they brought Luke in because of his previous head coaching experience. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest track record, but it somehow worked right now, kind of like what the Browns did with Jim Schwartz, that a lot of people thought it could have the possibility of working. We never thought it was going to work this well. And if Stefanski takes a step back, Jim Schwartz is basically ready to step in and take over a team that he's already acclimated with. So I think bringing Luke Walton in or possibly promoting him, unless you're going to go, because Mike Budenholzer's already said he wouldn't mind coaching that Suns squad. I think he'd be the biggest name out there that you can actually go out and get, who's, I hate to use the word retread here, but in terms of somebody who's got a successful pedigree, I think Luke Walton might be your best option because he's actually got experience with top-tier talent, and he had the biggest name of them all in today's NBA in the biggest market that there was. Of course, he's going to be set up to fail, but you basically get him as a younger head coach amongst a lot of the guys that are out there with what you may end up getting in a possible Darius Garland or Jared Allen trade. Take the draft picks out of the equation, because draft picks, unless you're in the lottery, don't mean shit anymore. Unless you're going to go out and like draft a Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton, or a Bailey Shireman out of Creighton, or somebody like that who had a great NCAA tournament and combine. I think it's a better fit for that.
I'll say this about blowing up the core. How well has it worked in other facets in Cleveland before?
You're talking with the Cavs?
I'm talking in general. In any sport in the city of Cleveland, how well has it gone when you blow up the core just because you think there's something wrong? When you have grown this unit, you have added what many people think is the missing piece to this team being a problem, and they have been a problem for the last 2 years with Donovan Mitchell. So why blow it up when you have guys like Mims and Mobley's brother sitting in the G League that you can insert, and they can be pieces that you won't have to keep Sam Merrill if Mims can play. Not is that the kid's last name, Mims? The one from Michigan State? I can't remember his name now.
Emoni Bates.
Bates. I'm sorry. I've been playing Madden, and Mims was in there. So if you can add Emoni Bates into that lineup, who's a better shooter than 3/4 of the guys. George Niang looks like Bartolo Colon. Get him the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's
I think the problem is, and this is just me, and again, do I have wine-colored glasses on? A lot of the times. The Cavs' depth is great in 82. It's not good in the short run. It's like a good starting rotation in baseball.
Yeah.
Your starters are going to get you through a 5-game series quicker than your bullpen is. The Cavs don't have somebody in the bullpen they can go to that's consistent enough. So do you blow the core up where you have basically 4 dudes, besides Donovan Mitchell, who play at an all-star level, and maybe one of the best on-ball defenders in the league in Isaac Okoro? Why do you blow that up? Why not do the one thing Cleveland has never done in sports, and that is add to the fucker instead of trying to rebuild it?
I don't think you necessarily, because you're using the term blow it up before we move on here, and I'll give you the last point after this as a rebuttal.
Okay.
I don't want to use the term blow it up, but I think you're going to have to remove 1 or 2 of the pieces. I'm not saying you're going to see 3 of them gone, but you're going to have to subtract 1, if not 2, and then you're going to be able to bring in a third one to kind of complete a trifecta here and be able to add a little bit more depth, whether that's actually, some of the smaller, end guys like a Bates, like Mobley's brother, becoming a little bit more part of this rotation next year, where, if JB's gone, you're going to be able to start bringing those guys in, where he refused to play them unless it was in mop-up time, or, it was on a back-to-back or something like that, because, hell, they're only playing 2.5 blocks away over at the Wolstein Center when you're at home. But I think it's something where you can do addition by subtraction, because look what they had, giving up Markkanen, giving up Colin Sexton, and I can't even remember the third piece, to be able to bring in Mitchell, and then how much of a difference that made. So it was, you had 2 all-stars, and then, Sexton was an all-star. Markkanen turned himself into a perennial all-star, and they're succeeding out in Utah, even though that there's nothing else around them, where you bring Mitchell into a team that's already got talent, and it just makes them better. So wherever one of these guys might go, you're going to have to actually get a pretty decent haul of a player coming back for him. Kind of like, what happened with Sacramento when Buddy Hield left. He immediately made wherever he went better. Sacramento kind of took a small step back, used their assets, and then became a contender last year. Now they fell off this year because of a lot of injuries and everything, but Sacramento set up better for the long term. Whereas I think the Cavs could also be set up, if you've got Donovan reportedly looking at a 4-year supermax, You're going to have him for quite a while here. You've got you're going to be signing Evan Mobley to a 4-year. I'm not going to say it a supermax here, but he's definitely, going to be coming back with this. So that actually leaves somebody on the outside.
If you're going to get rid of any of them, I think Jared Allen's the guy to go. Honestly. You have another big in, what is Evan Mobley's brother's name? I feel terrible just calling him Mobley's brother.
Isaiah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have Isaiah Mobley you can bring in to play there. No one really has a center that's not named Jokic or Gobert anyway. So it's not like you got to play with a traditional five. This isn't Shaq. Nobody other than Joker. There's no traditional five that is really putting his stamp on the game, especially in the Eastern Conference, because Embiid is, he's fallen way off a cliff.
And unless your name is Zach Edey or Ryan Kalkbrenner, you're not going to be able to go out and get one in the draft.
Listen, this is the Edey thing starts to make a little sense if Jared Allen's the guy to go.
I think if that were the case, you'd actually have to trade up into the lottery, which means you're going to be giving up quite a bit of a haul.
There is no one projecting Edey to go in the lottery.
I've seen a couple of them in recent weeks that actually had him as high as 12.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him crack the top 30 in a couple of them. They
say he needs to work on his footwork.
Well, yeah.
And that's the big drawback. But when you're 7'4", that's something you can easily work on.
Yeah, and here's where Luke Walton makes some sense. His old man,
one of the greatest of all time.
Agreed. So the Cavs got, you're right. The offseason questions are aplenty. And you and I are going to go back and forth on this all offseason. Jim, I don't think, and I'm going to call it this, and I don't mean anything mean by it. They cannot do the typical Cleveland thing and give up on a couple of pieces because they start listening to what should or should not happen. If you want to go get rid of one, fine. But we talked about it before. Isaac Okoro cannot be in any of these deals. He can't. You take your best on-ball defender off the floor. He was so good in that series. Cat hair's flying. I'm deathly afraid of what this offseason is going to bring.
Yeah, let's actually give it a few more weeks. Let's wait for the finals to end. And see what happens. Let the chips fall.
Agreed. What we got for number 3? Oh.
I fall asleep on the couch on Thursday night. I wake up, forgot to turn the TV off, and this is all that I'm hearing on SportsCenter playing over and over, and then the 7 a.m. live SportsCenter kicks in, and then the 8 a.m. live SportsCenter kicks in, and then Get Up kicks in with Mike Greenberg, and this is all that everybody's talking about to lead off the show, and rightfully so.
Agreed. And again, if you see everything, and because you had told me about it, and then I started looking at it yesterday. This was literally about a miscommunication. Because if you look at everything, even Darlington, who was in the car behind him, who was the one who did the video, they were told the players could go in.
Yeah. And it was also reported earlier today by ESPN. I don't think it was Jeff Darlington this time, that there was no body cam footage of the officer.
Yeah. And listen, jokes have been made that the guy had somebody else on FanDuel to win the tournament. And he really shot 66 after all that.
Yeah. Although he shot 3 over today.
Did
2
he?
over. He actually he was as much as 4 over at one point. Shot a 73 today. He's 7 under. He's 8 shots off the lead held by Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele.
That's the guy who they said
boy, would I
That's
like
the guy they
Schauffele
said the
to be
cop
right.
had on FanDuel was Xander Schauffele.
Yeah, it's and Victor Hovland 2 off at 13 under. I would really love to see either Hovland or Schauffele win this thing tomorrow. But
Yeah, I mean,
that's beside the point.
yeah, and it's tragic what happened. Someone was hit by one of the buses and lost their life, and it's terrible. As far as this situation goes with what we talk about, let's talk about this. First of all, if there's no body cam footage, that tells me one of two things. One, if he didn't have it, then so be it. But if he didn't have it on and it was on his person, that's a problem. You see a guy, you ought to know, if you're hosting the tournament, you ought to know who the guy is. He just won fucking Masters.
Yeah, and also you also have to figure if he's there that early as somebody on a crotch rocket goes speeding down the street here.
Heard that.
Yeah, better not be turning in here, douchebag. But you also have to figure if he's pulling in there that early, it was just after 6:30 a.m. somewhere in there. He's got to be going for a workout before because he wasn't supposed to tee off until 8:38 that morning. You got to figure he's got to be in a marked car, indicating that he's got the full permission to be there that early, and they have to let him go.
According to what I read from Darlington, is he was in a PGA marked car.
Yes.
So now the question becomes, was the guy not looking for it? Because if they were told that this happened, players in marked cars are allowed in, and this dude stopped him, and it looked like he was directing him to go around. Okay, now we got to wonder what's going on. I mean, it's an unreal story.
And we don't want to actually start pointing fingers saying,
No.
Scotty Scheffler's to blame, that the officer's to blame. It was a very, very chaotic and miscommunicated scenario with everything that happened, especially, again, unfortunately, the pedestrian being killed at just after 5 a.m., being hit by the bus. But something here, I don't want to say something just doesn't add up because we know really most of the facts, but realistically, if he was in a marked car, and you'd also have to figure, even if the officer's playing rent-a-cop at that point, and he's not required to have a body cam for something like that, if he's just directing traffic, you have to figure Scotty Scheffler's picture's got to be posted up all over Valhalla as the number one player in the world.
You would have to think. And that's why I take pause with this and I say to myself, okay, wasn't there. Don't know what it was like. I see plenty of times that people are directing traffic around here. You saw it. They drive like lunatics down here.
Yep.
You know that. Having said all that, especially in this situation where you have the world number one, granted, it's not Tiger. He doesn't stick out like a sore thumb in places, because everybody knows who Tiger is from his mugshot. Thank fuck. Those jokes were hilarious, by the way. The Tiger picking up Scotty at the jail. Really?
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
You're one of my favorite people on the planet already. And then you pull the Slim Pickens line from Blazing Saddles, and you just keep moving up that ladder. The last thing I'll mention about this, because this is not something I want to do a ton of time on, because it's just there's too much unknown yet. Here's the real question of the day. How many people who are working the event, or in the area, don't know what's going on? Especially, like you said, if it's a PGA Tour marked car, it's the number one player in the world. Are you living under a rock?
You also have to figure if anyone watched even 3 episodes of that Netflix documentary Full Swing that came out last year, where Scotty Scheffler was actually featured in the same episode as I want to say Brooks Koepka, going into the PGA from a couple of years ago. Scotty Scheffler, if I'm going to steal the line from Major League 2, Scotty Scheffler lives his life as clean as his mother's kitchen floor. He's a very, very, I don't want to say he's extremely religious, but he's very close knit to the vest. He's very conscientious. Him and his wife, they just had their first kid a couple of weeks ago. That's why I don't think his wife traveled to the tournament, because she was home with their newborn. But for as popular as, like, even just that episode, Koepka, wild guy, very outspoken, has the supermodel type girlfriend / wife, Scotty Scheffler's wife, attractive, not knockout, drop dead gorgeous like Brooks Koepka's. It's, very, very close to the vest and down to earth. Koepka's the kind of guy who would actually go out, if you ran into both of them at the bar, Koepka's going to be the one to try and basically drink you under the table or be the life of the party. And Scotty's going to be the guy who casually gets you home safely without any care of his own.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was like. A nice Rube Baker reference, by the way. Did you really just...
No, that was one of the kids, I thought.
No, they were talking about Rube.
No, they were actually talking about when she brought the kids out to the ballpark as a reward, and the guy says, "You could eat prime rib off my floor for cleaning duty."
That's right.
I'm all well versed on movies. I actually watched Ready Player One for the first time earlier today. Loved it.
Did you really? I have not sat through the whole thing yet.
I'm not going to say I liked it more than Free Guy, but it was damn good.
I want to see If.
There's part of me that might want to see that as well.
Did you see who the voice cast is?
Partially.
I mean, it's like, well, first of all, it's Krasinski. So, everything he's done has been great. But it's him, it's Carell, it's Ryan Reynolds, it's the girl from Walking Dead, it's Emily Blunt, it's Blake Lively. Keep going, man.
Well, you figure they're all part of their crew, so it's like Krasinski and Reynolds were good friends, so naturally Blake Lively's going to come around as a wag, and then Krasinski's going to pull Carell from Office, and
and he's going to look at his wife and go, "Hey, can you bail me out again?"
Exactly.
Oh God, I see.
It's like the frat party where your friend of a friend of a friend keeps just showing up,
But the scary part is the friend of the friend of the friend is Steve Carell.
Yeah, I think it's also all those Boston guys.
If Evans would have shown up, I'd have been a little pissed.
Very true. But then again, it is Captain Frickin' America, even though I'm not a Marvel fan. How could you go wrong with Chris Evans?
You really can't.
Remember him in Gray Man?
No, I remember him in Not Another Teen Movie.
God, that's one I haven't seen in probably 20 years.
Dude, when Nick was down here, we're flipping through the channels, and Varsity Blues was on. So we watched from right before Lance got hurt till the end of the movie. And when she comes out in the whipped cream bikini, I busted out laughing. And Nick's like, "Dude, that's Allie Larder." I'm like, "No, I just saw Chris Evans."
Allie Larder. She was
Final Destination.
Well, yeah, but I also remember her from other things. She was the girl from Legally Blonde. She was the original Sonya Blade.
Yep.
What else was she in that I just saw recently again? It's going to drive me nuts because I literally just watched her on something about...
We're pulling up the IMDb on Allie Larder. Jesus Christ.
She was Jill Valentine in the Resident Evil series.
Yep.
She was in The Rookie, the TV show.
Oh, she was the doctor that he dated.
She was the doctor and former flame that he hooked up with again in season 2 and the start of season 3, which apparently they just ended their season. So now I'm 4 seasons behind.
Yeah. It took me about 3 or 4 different clips to realize that was Jenna Dewan.
Yeah. Channing Tatum, what were you thinking? Although I think, then again, I also remember she was Lucy. She was Lucy Hale. She was Lucy Lane on Supergirl for like a season and a half.
Yep. The funny thing is, we talked about Chris Evans, and in Not Another Teen Movie, the girl who played the lead, the Rachel Lee Cook part, was the one who played Lexi Gray on Grey's Anatomy and was Kara's sister on Supergirl.
Chyler Leigh.
Yep. I like her.
I do too, although she's on a new Hallmark show that I just could never get into. Because really anything that she does, she's good in.
Agreed.
I just could not get into that show.
I don't think I've watched Hallmark more than once. That's your thing, dude. Listen, you do that. I have The West Wing saved on the YouTube playlist. What I do.
I got to find something new to get into, because after Tuesday, like NCIS is done is done until the fall, and my FBIs are ending on Tuesday. So for the next 4.5 months, I've got like nothing to catch up on. It's just going to be cleaning out movies on Netflix constantly.
Nice. You got to watch the Brady roast.
I might give it a little bit.
As much as you hate that son of a bitch, they burn the fuck out of him.
I might give that one a whirl. I actually got to finish that anime series probably sometime later on this week that we were that I was mentioning. The last time we were on. There's a couple of other movies that that got saved. I started watching, and I got to finish the Ashley Madison documentary that just went up earlier this week. So
all of Archer's going to be on there starting next month.
It already is.
Oh, is it already? Good.
Yep. I want to say
I think we're getting rid of Hulu.
Yeah, because I cut cable right after the Miami Vice season. So I've got 6 or 7 seasons to go on that.
Yeah, I gotta catch up on it too. I mean, my personal favorite, just the Rampage episode. It's so early. It's so Thursday. Wonderful.
I watched that one on Thursday after I got my car back.
Casablanca.
God damn you. Because that was my favorite line in terms of in Rampage, man. Did you watch Regis this morning? Booyakasha right in the face.
That's not even the funniest part of that episode. The funniest part of that episode is when what's his name figures out that the doctor's one of the boys from Brazil.
I don't know. The Irish against the Hondurans in the Family Feud. Name the douchebag.
Cock flavored spit. Cock flavored spit. Well, you never know what'll be up there. Yeah. Survey says. Jesus. What? I told you it was on a rampage.
When the grenade goes off.
What?
Mom.
Oh, did you know doing Kegels is beneficial for men as well? How did they get away with some of that shit?
Because it was on FX late, and that was actually because remember FX got away with a lot more shit, and then they moved it to FXX, where not every cable package has that, so they could get away with more in later seasons.
Before we go to halftime, I will leave you with my favorite, most recent Who's Line moment ever. The thing from Scenes from a Hat was pickup lines that won't work on Aisha. Keegan Michael Key goes, "Girl, I think about you every time we're going at it. but your character from Archer.
Lana!
Danger Zone. That was perfect, by the way. That was absolutely fucking perfect.
God.
So we're at an hour and 5. We're going to take a quick break for halftime. We're going to refuel, and then we'll get to the blast, which has got a couple of things that Jim and I are going to talk about that we're very concerned about, but are actually okay with.
Which, ironically enough, we've got a lot more to talk about tonight in a special edition of the Thread Count than we actually do the Blast for a change.
That's true.
We've got a loaded Thread Count. The Blast we could probably blow through in under 10 minutes tonight if we wanted to.
But do we really want to?
Nah, you'll see why when we queue it up and when we're back.
We'll see you in a few. Literally 8 minutes.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. So I got to show you something real quick. This is the white cheddar popcorn thing we sent Bobby to school with. He can actually say Pirates Booty. It's hilarious.
Just wait until like you finally show him WWE and he actually starts calling for bootios.
Hilarious moment this afternoon. So we were joking, and I got the dark sense of humor anyway. And I had said that when I go, I would like one of my two boys to run through my wake wearing the Jack Sparrow costume, screaming, "I got a jar of dirt." Now,
I'm going to stick a pin in what I thought. Keep going.
guess who in his own gibberish tried to say, "I got a jar of dirt"?
Every Thursday night from 6 to 8, I watch the Warframe stream live on Twitch. You connect your Twitch account to your game account. You watch for 2 hours. You get in-game bonuses. After they're done, the 20,000 people that are there end up rating a sponsor stream. The stream that they sponsored this week was a guy had to be in his late 40s, early 50s, and they rarely end up doing giveaways on the sponsor stream. So some people hang around for an hour, hour and a half. You'll see like the 20,000 diminish down to like 6 or 7,000 really quick after the stream is, after, the raid is done. He's got all of his sound effects loaded, and that is on his soundboard whenever anyone is subscribing to his channel.
I got a jar of dirt. Real quick, speaking
as was the Wild Wild World of Sports, so I hear that and I immediately have to pull it.
Yeah, so speaking of streaming, did you see how excited Mr. Rice and I are for the game? Hold on. The $150 one? Did you see what that bundle includes?
I think he showed me, but since I'm not going to be able to play it, I'm not taking too much of a piqued interest in it.
Tip-top version of that game and the next Madden game. So
that makes sense.
We're starting to think that with that, you're going to be able to move your player into Madden like you used to be able to. Which is my favorite.
Well, you've got to figure, since they're both under the EA umbrella, there's got to be some sort of crossover.
They stopped it, I think, with when Madden, the 25th anniversary Madden came out, because the last one you could do it in that I remember was 11, with Tebow on the cover of one and Drew Brees on the cover of the other. Because I have like 6 or 7 of the NCAA games, but you couldn't do it in NCAA 14. So you'd play your 4 years, and then immediately, would you like to become a graduate assistant? And you would work your coaching way up. But yeah, so as I told people in my office today, listen, I need Xbox gift cards, so we need points. Let's go. So Jim, what do you want to do first?
I'm just actually wondering if they're going to be able to make a downgraded, like almost PS4 version that'll run on the Switch 2 when it comes out next year.
I think if it's a Switch 2, they're going to end up doing it because it's all the next-gen consoles. Because it's not even available on PS4. You can't get it.
Then it's not going to. Then I'm not going to be able to play it because they say the processor that they're going to run in the Switch 2 is basically going to be on par with an Xbox One or a PS4. And I have no problem stepping back with that because sometimes some of the smaller end games or some of the free play games, why do you think I've got over 900 hours logged in Warframe in the last 8 months?
Listen, man, I get you. I keep getting pop-ups on the show like, hey, you're going to buy 24? No.
What, you don't want what I teased you about yesterday? Your
No.
free Angel Hernandez and CB Buckner DLC?
No. Dude, let me tell you something right now. They're in there already.
That's just being bitter because you're not getting the calls.
No, this was bad. 23, some of the calls on 23 are so terrible, I started playing 22 again just because.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
But literally, I missed a call today, and I went, I got to turn the volume up a little bit.
it still came through.
Oh, so what do you want to do first? Blast or thread count?
Let's do blast because the
All right.
thread count we're going to have a little bit more fun with.
All right, let's get to it.
And there's going to be an intro for this coming probably in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, the third one makes me laugh. Let's start with baseball. And let's start with Paul Skeens, who is a fucking beast. And his girlfriend's hot.
Yeah. Boy, he's living the good life. 21 years old.
Why did they pull him?
He will be 22 5 days after me. 5 days after my birthday. He's only making $750,000 this year. His adjusted salary is about $561,000. He's got 18 strikeouts in his first 2 appearances. Got his first major league win yesterday, where he struck out the first 7 batters he faced. The first guy that he faced that got on base wasn't until the bottom of the 6th inning. Threw 100 pitches yesterday, 12 of them clocked in 3 digits or more. Compare that to back on May 11th when he made his debut. And I'm doing this all off the top of my head because this was actually covered on the Sports Note earlier today. As a matter of fact, right as we were going live, the video just posted to YouTube. So please go watch that after you're done here sometime this weekend. Not you, just our entire audience.
I know.
But threw 84 pitches in his debut back on May 11th, also against the Cubs at PNC, and 18 of those pitches were up over 100 miles an hour. And oh yeah, he's dating Livy Dunn, the most followed amateur athlete in the country, with 13 million followers between TikTok and Instagram, and actually has the largest NIL deal for any female in the NCAA.
First world problems, James. First world problems. Hey, listen, he's as good as advertised. Now, here's where the crux of the whole thing comes in. I'm going to throw a name out, and it's the last time we saw this, and that's Steven Strasburg.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that was the comparison that I made, is that you saw Spencer Strider, Shane Bieber, and Yudi Perez in Miami all go down with elbow surgeries. Now, Strider avoided Tommy John, but Bieber's not a power pitcher. He's more of a Maddox and Smoltz type corners pitcher, but still, the other two are definitely power pitchers. Strasburg was a power pitcher when he was taken number 1 overall, hasn't pitched in 4 years, finally retired. You can't put that much torque on the ball and expect to have a long, lengthy career. So they're going to have to figure out how to get him to work on his other pitches.
It's not the other pitches. Paul Skeens does something that these other guys didn't do. He's got a very good base. Now, again, I was brought up in the drop and drive mentality. Seaver, Ryan, Kuzman, Steve Carlton, Bob Gibson. They use their entire bodies. Unfortunately, these stupid bastards that are coaching the baseball at the lower levels right now are saying that you need to be able to use your front leg should be straight. You have to max out velocity. Tom Seaver threw 95 to 100, and he looked like he was effortless because he used his legs. Paul Skeens uses his lower half.
And that's actually where I think he's not going to have to rework everything like a Strider was, because he's 6'6", 235. And that's why Randy Johnson had such a lengthy career and never had the arm issues, because when you're 6'10" and a little bit skinnier, though, when you're taller like that, you could definitely put a little bit more torque, because you're coming, by the time the ball reaches the plate, you're coming over the top. So the pitch is actually dropping, which is why Randy Johnson was able to throw a 93-mile-an-hour cutter, which is why he was able to throw an 85-mile-an-hour off-speed pitch, whereas somebody like Bieber, if he's going to throw a changeup, it's only going to be in the high 70s because he doesn't have that level of velocity, because that's not the pitcher that he is. Paul Skeens, with that size frame and the fact that he's only 21, yeah, he can do that, but he's not going to be able to – they've got to actually – maybe run him through this year, see what he does. But I would say as for spring training next year, they got to get him out of the ideal that you're a starter throwing like a closer.
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody's chasing velocity. The
But
first
that's
time I
not what gets guys out. Unless
Yes
you're an
and no.
Emmanuel Clase, where Clase was all over the place this first year as a closer, being converted from a starter, and now he's the best closer in the game.
Agreed. Now I will say this: velocity gets guys out. What gets guys out more is location. Now, what he's shown me in his first 2 starts is he can locate 100, and that's scary.
Yeah, it's of the 100 pitches he threw yesterday, 67 were strikes. I want to say out of the 84 that he threw on the 11th, I want to say he was in upper 60s or low to mid 60s on strikes.
Yeah,
So very
he's
accurate.
got a great understanding of the zone. The kid the Mets brought up recently, and now his name is escaping me. I want to say it's Christian Scott, but I'm not 100% positive. That don't quote me on it. But the kid they just brought up, he is very much like Skeens, wherein he's in the zone. He throws strikes. Even his breaking stuff, he throws strikes. Who's the kid they just brought up?
And let's also keep in mind with Skeens is that I even brought this up. It was kind of the headline in the Sports Note, not to bury the lead here, but you don't see a whole lot of number 1 picks in the MLB amateur draft that come in with this level of hype. I don't think we've actually had this much hype for a guy before he even threw his first pitch since Strasburg. Now, Adley Rutschman's been very good, but it wasn't until after Rutschman really kind of got there where you actually started hearing hype. You were hearing hype for Strasburg going into the College World Series, where everyone thought he was going to be the unanimous number 1. Paul Skeens was originally projected to be the 3rd best prospect in the draft, but the number 1 pitcher by a country mile, which is why Pittsburgh went that direction, which is why when the Guardians have the number 1 pick coming up in July, they're thinking of there's a lot of people thinking that they're going to get the pitcher from Georgia, even though he might be the 5th or 6th best prospect out there, because they actually could use a better starter. I'm sorry. The guy that they're targeting from Georgia, he's a 3rd baseman and an outfielder who can hit for power, which means if Jose Ramirez is there, you can bring the kid up and actually finally get some pop in the outfield.
No, I agree, and I think he is going to go number 1 overall. He's been phenomenal. He's all over the place down here. But going back to the hype thing, here is where Strasburg was the most hype since Dwight Gooden. I mean, that's how far it was in between. The difference is Doc was a pitcher. Strasburg's a thrower. Skeens is a pitcher. Because if you look at the way he does things, he sets his stuff up. He's in the zone. If he's wild, it's not to a place where he can get solid. They can get solid contact off it. His secondary pitches are above average. He utilizes his lower half in his mechanics. That's what's going to save him from the big arm injury. Because think about it. Look how hard Pedro Martinez threw. And it wasn't until, he was with the Mets that he had his first significant injury. You're talking Montreal, all the years in Boston, and then finally with the Mets is when he had the shoulder issue. So that's very late in his career. He used his legs. Billy Wagner was about this tall, threw 100 miles an hour because he used his legs.
Mm-hmm.
So if Skeens can keep his mechanics what they are now, even tweak them a tad, you can see him avoid the injury if he keeps using the lower half. The guys who use the lower half are the ones that stick around. Scherzer uses his lower half. DeGrom, when he's right, is using the lower half. That's how Jacob DeGrom throws so hard. Unfortunately, he's having TJ, but that's because his slider is just disgusting too. I love this for Pittsburgh. I do. I think the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be a goddamn problem going forward.
And think of who his battery mate's going to be once he finally gets his offensive numbers fixed, and that would be Henry Davis, who was the first overall pick in 2021 as a catcher. Even though Davis was sent down back on May the 4th, Davis, once he finally gets his numbers to come around, him and Skeens as that battery and as good young talent as Pittsburgh's got coming up. Keep in mind, this is the 6th time that the Pirates have had the number 1 overall pick since the amateur draft started in 1965. That's a major league record. Mike, can you name the 3 teams that are tied for second?
The Mets,
1.
Seattle,
No.
the Gardos.
The Gardos are actually picking first for the first time ever this year.
Really?
Yes.
As god awful as they were in the 70s and 80s.
Because this is the first year that they actually went to a draft lottery.
That's true. Okay. So let's see. Number 1 overall.
The Guardians had a 0.2%, had like a 2% chance of winning the lottery for being one of the last teams not to make the playoffs, and got it.
So the Mets definitely, because you figure the Mets also were an expansion team.
Let me let me narrow this down here for you. Think of 3 teams right now with very high payrolls.
The Mets, the Padres, the Dodgers, the Yankees.
The Houston Astros.
Oh, I should have known that.
And there are now 7 teams when the Guardians came off the board that have never had the number 1 pick. And it's a lot of the teams that you would expect that have been very good over the years. Your
The Yankees,
Toronto,
the Dodgers,
your Yankees,
Toronto,
the Cardinals, et cetera. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And just think of how good this is going to make Pittsburgh having 2 out of the last 3 as number 1 overall. Because look at what Baltimore is doing right now with Rushman and I can't think of the other.
Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah.
So listen, when Pittsburgh is good, it's always fun.
Yes.
So I mean, in baseball anyway.
Yeah,
By the way, real quick,
the only one that you can actually cheer for that wear those colors.
The Browns using the terrible towels to clean the bowling balls in the schedule release. By the way, speaking of schedule releases, I want to go to the second thing over, and that's Harrison Butker being a misogynist, considering his mother's a fucking genius.
Back up 1 second. What were you saying about the towels? Because I have one question for you.
What?
Who do you think you are? I am.
That was great. That was great. The fact that Pete Weber was there made it even better. That was fucking wonderful. But yeah, Harrison Butker. Let me tell you something. They got guys. I mean, the Chiefs' PR department needs a raise. But my favorite meme to come out of all of this from his misogynistic, even though my mother is like some kind of doctor, was the one where it looks like Taylor Swift is yelling at Travis Kelce and she goes, "I don't care how much the fines are. I'll pay him. What's going to happen if you tackle your own kicker?"
That one was good. That one came actually up at my niece's birthday earlier today.
But then if you swipe it left and you go to the next one, she goes, "Travis, you didn't answer the question. How much trouble you get in if you tackle your own kicker?"
Yeah, they're going to need to break him off.
You know what? They're not going to need to break him off. Here's my opinion on this. The First Amendment is there for a reason. He's allowed to say what he thinks. What he can't do is get mad at the backlash. And there's going to be. Because, number one, let's put this in a macro perspective. The second most popular player on your team is dating the most popular woman on the planet, who certainly isn't what you think they should be.
And arguably the most popular player on your team because of who he's dating after last year.
Agreed. Your team, the principal owner is a woman, not the kid. his mother. This puts them in a spot. I mean, Rashee Rice is a fucking moron.
Yeah.
He needs to burn in hell. But this puts Kansas City in a spot. They're going to have enough of a hot spotlight on them this year, going for the first ever three-peat in NFL history. Which, if you look at what the AFC's shaping up with when we get to the schedules, they've got a pretty good fucking shot at doing it.
Yeah.
Why? What's there to gain from this? You're telling people who just achieved something, and 51% of the people who go to that school are female, that, oh, by the way, everything you just did for 4 years and all this money you spent and all the debt you incurred, it don't mean a fucking thing. You shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's like, so you're going to basically use that to sit home and better your man to go out and make more money.
I don't get it, Jim. I don't get it. I don't get it for several different reasons. One, in a couple of months, I will be celebrating my 13th wedding anniversary. And she is far smarter than I have ever been. You've been in our presence. You know that to be true.
I was going to say, because we're brush kids. I mean, how smart can we be?
Yeah, but she went to FDR in Hyde Park, and it's the same basic thing. Yes. Where the hell are you going? Would you get your ass out of the show? Jesus.
Wherever he damn well wants to.
That's Ollie. But
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
That's 3.
dude, you should have sent that to me during the break. It's because I would have used it by now too. Because that very quickly would be my favorite one. But going back to this, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Why, and this is about the platform. And we can't get mad at him for saying it and want him banned and everything else, because we all stood behind Colin when he did his thing, because we listened to the message. Unfortunately,
there's a lot of, I will admit, originally, I wanted Colin, because one of the first blogs I ever put out was for Colin to basically stand up and shut up. But that was actually before I really, because I was always raised, you don't disrespect the anthem. That was the problem that I had, not the message, but the way of going about doing it. And now we all know that he's basically been railroaded. We've seen what, we saw what Butker did. And does also Aaron Rodgers make a bigger ass out of himself if he doesn't have the entire season to basically sit back and go on McAfee and every other right-wing type broadcast and spew his lies?
Agreed. Now, with Colin, my whole thing that I didn't have an issue with it wasn't just the message. He got the kneeling from a Green Beret. I don't really quite know how much more okay you need to do something like that than a guy who's in Spec Ops. Sorry. I'm good.
The cop pigs on the socks was a little much for me, though.
That was stupid, and I blasted him for that too. That was stupid. But the knee, absolutely. No, I had no issue with it once I found out it was an actual Green Beret who was a long snapper in college. No problem whatsoever. But going back to this moron, you got this spotlight on you because of what your team is doing. You now bring up something like this in a climate where, being honest, just out there, people who think that are under fire because of what their message is. And now you're going to tag your team with it. I don't get it, dude. I just don't get it.
I did not.
Especially with who his mother is.
I did not really want to go here, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to go here. So if I can have the floor for a minute.
Go ahead.
The fact that he's going out there and making this level of statements, targeting women, essentially, where you could basically tell where his allegiance is, and you can read between the lines on that by making that type of statement for what his values are, with the fact of what that base has already done to women's rights in the last year, and how much of an influence they're going to have on the next election, and also how much influence the girlfriend of his own teammate is going to add to that in the next 6 months.
Yeah. Now let's go to his beliefs and let's throw something else in this. His mother's a world-renowned physicist. You don't do that by making a fucking cake every day after school. So, bro, where are you getting this from? There's only one answer. He drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Can we move on from this? Because this is just going to piss me off.
Well, let's actually go over to a team that they could end up meeting in the Super Bowl.
Let me do this first. Jared Goff. And let me give this to the entire Detroit Lions organization. Let me preface what I'm about to say by saying this. I hate Cam Newton. I think he's the biggest piece of garbage, one of, on the planet. He was absolutely right. The Rams sent Jared Goff to die in Detroit. And he was Dan Quinn's stupidity from taking his second franchise to a Super Bowl. He deserves every dime that the Detroit Lions just gave him. Every single dime. No, Jared Goff.
No, you said Dan Quinn.
I meant Dan Campbell. Yes.
Okay.
Not that Dan Quinn didn't fuck up a Super Bowl, but anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
See, I choke job Dan Quinn. It just kind of fit. So he was Dan Campbell's stupidity away from going to a second Super Bowl. Let me say this. Every dime you're going to pay this guy, he's earned. And the best parts of your team are on rookie contracts.
Yep. Remember, you and I talked before we even started this show, when you were actually begging me to come on that first time, that I did not originally like the Goff for Stafford trade, and then it ended up getting me a Super Bowl. Goff was the quarterback of a Rams team that did get to a Super Bowl, and was arguably the worst Super Bowl ever. But he doesn't. The Rams don't go to the Super Bowl unless Goff ends up getting them there, and was basically put under Mr. 7-9 bullshit's thumb, who refused to play him. And now look what happened. Goff got a $216 million extension, and Mr. 7-9 bullshit is the new commissioner of the already failing Arena Football League revamp.
Yeah, no, to be fair, Jared Goff and the worst non-call in NFL history took that Rams team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but they're not in that position if Goff's not a
huge
part of it.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's why the Jared Goff part was first in that comment. But yeah, he has played so well in Detroit too. And game manager gets used as basically a connotation of terrible by the media today. And I will say this, he might be one of the better game managers I've ever seen.
Yes.
That's all he has to do. They have put enough around him that he doesn't need to throw the ball to win. He doesn't need to do these things to win because he has a roster around him of guys who can play.
You know what it reminds me of, and we're going to sound a little homerish for where this is going to go. It reminds me a lot of what the Browns defense did when they drafted Myles Garrett and started putting the pieces around him. It's because when Garrett got there, you had Emmanuel Ogbah, you had a couple of other guys who had the potential to be there, but then it really started to take shape once Myles got there, and now you got an elite caliber defense. You had a couple of pieces, parts, and some role players, and then you bring in Goff and you really let him turn loose, and he turns into a very good game manager. Then you bring in Amon St. Ra. Then you bring in more receivers. Then you bring in top caliber tight ends. Then you go get the running back. And now Detroit has got one of the 4 or 5 best offenses in all of football, where you're absolutely right that he doesn't have to go out. He doesn't have to be Trent. He's not going to be Trent Dilfer, where he's basically just a placeholder and a game manager, but he's also not Brock Purdy, where he's got to go out and put up 300 yards, especially if the running game falters, because the running game is not going to falter because the defense is going to be able to do his job with the talent that they have there, to where the offense can string together a couple of shoddy drives, and if they sputter, the defense is not going to be worn out.
Well, let's talk about what Detroit did in 2 straight drafts, and that's Aiden Hutchinson and Penny Sewell.
Yeah.
Think about that. You draft generational D end, generational left tackle. Jim, what are we talking about here? We're talking about what if the Browns could have done when they got Joe Thomas, and the next year would have been able to get Myles Garrett. Generational protection, generational pass rush. And then you fill in. Because even the Myles team, and as much as you can't stand this guy, even the Myles team didn't start taking shape with Myles until they got the shutdown corner. If think of a defense. Good middle linebacker, good big pass rusher, shutdown corner. Take one side of the field away. That's how you win in today's NFL.
And if you think about it, really outside of the Browns, has there been any team more snake bit and underperforming in the last 15 years than the Detroit Lions? For a lot of years, the Lions were already penciled into the basement and never really had a chance to contend. And now we're talking about, could the Detroit Lions be the class of the NFC?
No. Remember, this is a team that's more known for the guy who was Webster's dad on television, Alex Sanders. Yeah. Alex Karras and Barry Sanders. They have swung and missed on quarterbacks all the way back to Scott Mitchell. I never thought I'd say this in a million years. Never in a million years. Jared Goff, who went to Cal, who is from California, was made for Detroit. Who would have ever thought?
And he goes to Los Angeles, so he's basically playing in his backyard.
I think that hurt him. Not everybody, and going back to basketball, not everybody can be LeBron and play with that immense kind of pressure. Goff was the first pick when they got back to LA, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough.
But then they also get the hometown boy Hutchinson, who turns into an all-world D end in his first 2 years already.
Agreed. And when they took Penei Sewell, that was the draft before Hutchinson. That was the Joe Burrow. That was the draft we thought Penei Sewell was going to go to Cincinnati to protect Joe Burrow, and they took the receiver and went to that Super Bowl against your Rams. I love what Detroit has done to build this roster. Let's see how they keep it.
And you got to pull for Detroit this year because of those sweet-ass black alternate jerseys.
Oh, I like them.
Before we get into the thread count, while we're talking about that, let's talk about that very first point very, very quickly, because there's only 2 points I actually want to bring up on that. Browns-Cowboys week 1.
With Tom Brady on the call?
Tom Brady in the booth.
Can I just say this? I won't watch a single fucking snap of that game.
I'll watch it, but I'm absolutely not. I don't care if there's going to be a delay. I will absolutely have Jim and Nathan on.
Yes, no, and that's what I mean when I won't watch.
That's the only way you watch a Browns game.
Agreed. Agreed. I only get it on the laptop, so it's funny because I'm actually going to start investing a little more in the team this year because I have a feeling that next offseason we're going to be talking about an entirely blown up team. especially with them having the hardest schedule in the league. Jim, this is a team that's made the playoffs 3 times and has never played above a third-place schedule till this year. 7-10, put it down. Even Vegas knows the over/under for the Browns win total is 7.5.
6-11. And we're not going to play schedule game for a little bit here because let's wait. Let's definitely wait until the start.
I want to know how the Browns have the toughest schedule. Did you see what Pittsburgh has to do the second half of the fucking year?
But it's just the rotation. It's not like you're going to be the worst team in football. But
that's a third-place schedule. But that's a third-place schedule that plays the entire divisional run, Philly and Kansas City in the second 8 of the year.
The only thing I think that works to the Browns' favor with the schedule is the fact of all the really, really top-tier quarterbacks that they have to play have to come to Cleveland. Herbert, Mahomes. They go on the road for Daniel Jones.
Speaking of god-awful ugly.
Yeah, but one more thing before we move into that here. The Jets with 6 primetime games in the first 11 weeks.
Fuck them.
Why? When Rodgers lost his other ACL?
Because the NFL is god-awful dumb. Did you see the Chargers schedule video?
Yes. Why do you think Butker's in there?
Fucking gold. Butker wasn't even the best part. Did you see what they had Rodgers doing?
That I did not, because I didn't get that far.
He was hiding from 5G towers and nuclear reactive babies.
I have something I need to go watch tonight then.
Dude, you have no fucking idea. The Chargers take it up, but Butker in the fucking kitchen. The only thing that would have been better
part of
is
the Sims, nonetheless.
Exactly. The only thing that would have been better if it was a Taylor Swift song he was in the kitchen too. That would have been the only thing that would have been better.
Like 22 or something, like McAfee.
Or Shake It Off. That'd have been bad.
When they eventually break him off, could they actually start singing "We Are Never Ever Ever Getting Back Together"?
Emotional damage.
Wait. Please. Can that happen?
Oh, we'll make it happen. I'll take the copyright strike.
Dude, I would rather still do the shoes than take the copyright strike for that.
Although somebody will beat us to it that night.
Did I send you the thing where the guy's playing the PR department and the?
Yes. I watched it after I got home for my nieces.
Let's send him to Cleveland. They hire anybody.
They're not wrong.
I didn't say he was.
Do you see the thing that I reposted out on Facebook about the Deshaun Watson stink face?
No.
Somebody actually it was him kind of doing one of these, and the caption on it said, when somebody said that this team is not making the playoffs, I said, no, he's not making that face because somebody said that they're not going to the playoffs. He's making that face because somebody actually mentioned Browns and playoffs in the same sentence with him under center.
Yes. Even better, I love your comment on the jersey giveaway. Did mine post? I was having internet problems.
I'm not 100% sure.
I asked how many happy endings the jersey sweepstakes came with.
Oh, God. The Browns were actually, how teams give away like signed jerseys, they were actually giving away a signed Deshaun Watson jersey, and overwhelmingly people were saying pass. I made the comment that seems to get a lot of like, that it's not worth the internet bill that it costs to make that post.
Well, that's because the internet's expensive, and that piece of garbage doesn't deserve the time or the money.
Somebody's got to line a birdcage somewhere.
Well, anything
Or
Tony
you-
Grossi.
Or you sell it and you donate it to a shelter.
Yes, a guy that was under a suspicion of SA, we're going to donate his jersey to a shelter. That's like the dog
You
reaction
sell the
of
jersey and then you donate the money.
Oh, okay. I would say that's like the dog reaction to Atlanta drafting another Michael who's left-handed.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Emphasis on shit.
That was funny. I'm sorry.
Speaking of shit,
Let's get to it.
we got a lot to get through here on these, and we're going to kind of blow through these here pretty quick.
Yes, we do. Let's talk about the Giants one first because it's fucking terrible. Now, I will say this: what they're giving the season ticket holders is actually pretty cool. It's a box that's designed that way, and on a box it looks good. On the players, not so much. But in the box is like a ticket to one of replica ticket to one of the NFL World Championship games they played in. All 4 Super Bowl rings, replicas, like you gave me the Zeke one, in a box, all 4 of them, which I think is cool. Because the amount of money you pay to be a Giants season ticket holder, plus your PSL license, because, you know, the Jets and Giants wrote a check for MetLife and got no public money and now have to make their money back, you know, other than not putting good teams on the field. This is ugly as shit. Scroll that down, dude. I can't. The thread count thing's in the way. That's a fucking Domino's t-shirt.
People are saying, I mean, the winged eagle helmets and the pants, people are saying that those are like San Francisco gold. They look nude to me.
Dude,
I don't know if it's just my color blindness or what.
they're fucking Michigan helmets.
Agreed, which is what they wore way back in the day.
Which is why I want to vomit. That night, a lot of acid today. Although if I drop acid, those might actually look good.
Yeah, these are just.
This is horrific.
This is terrible.
When did they wore these 100 years ago?
Something like that.
What the fuck were they thinking then?
The other thing that I've actually seen these most compared to, the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, yes. That was during Prohibition, so now I know why. They were all drinking bootleg hooch out of the freaking bathtub. That's why they didn't know what the fuck they were wearing.
Well, I mean, in that picture, Danny Dimes definitely looks like his mom was too drunk to be an astronaut.
Fucking stop, dude. Okay, now we got to go over this. We've hit Blazing Saddles, Major League 2, and now White Men Can't Jump in this episode. We are really a pop culture Cuisinart that just doesn't mix anything good.
Yeah, but you were the one that brought up the drunk comment, so I had to make it.
We're going to find a guy with a Jerry curl, and I'm going to do the follow the drip thing from House Party at some point in time, but not now. Can we?
Dallas wins 117-116, so they're on to the West Finals.
Wow, they came back?
Yep.
What was Kyrie? I want to look at Kyrie's numbers, and I did not turn the TV on. I had to hit the bathroom.
Pulling it right now. The box score just came through. Kyrie was 9 of 23, 4 of 10 from 3 for 22 points.
PJ Washington hit the shot to win it.
Clutch free throws, they said. Luka with 29, Jones with 22, Shai with 36. Chet Holmgren with 21. But Dallas upsets the number 1 team in the West.
Jim, Edmonton scored 4 goals in the third period. They win 5-1. We're going to Game 7 in Vancouver.
Yeah, it's and I gotta say, I think Vancouver's going to be out for blood. I don't think this was something that they actually let up so they could win Game 7 in their own barn. But I don't like the idea of going into a hostile place as Vancouver can be in BC place and coming out with a W there. Although
I don't think so either.
I would absolutely love to see Connor McDavid get a shot to go to the finals.
I would too. Actually paying attention. I like Connor McDavid. But yeah, can we go to something else? This is starting to make me sick.
Let's actually go here for a minute. This thing doesn't let me share the way that I want it to.
Of course it doesn't. Why would technology work the way we fucking want it to?
We've got 2 expansion teams coming to the WNBA.
And it's about damn time. I want the Cleveland Rockers back.
Word from what I'm seeing, I mean, because we've got one here, the Golden State Valkyries. I like the name and I like the symbolism with the logo.
The question is, do they get Tessa Thompson to come out to a game?
Entirely possible.
I think so too.
This is the one that I actually like. It's the 13 lines to represent the 13th team.
That's cool.
That is very cool with the symbolism. The Bay Bridge, the cables, very good symbolism.
No, that's very well thought out.
Although
I like
this one I have a problem with because that looks more like a tie than a sword.
That looks like an MC Escher tie from the 90s. Think about it. I had one of those. I think I have it upstairs still.
Tie goes to the runner.
Tie goes to a new team. Yeah, I mean, I get it with the sword thing, but yeah, you got to have a handle for it to look like a sword. Ask the Cavs.
I'm just a little confused as to why they went with the black and violet. Because that's typically like, I mean, the Fever wear colors close to the Pacers, the Liberty wear, they're not Knicks colors, but it's definitely identifiable with New York. The Aces moved from San Antonio. They kept the silver and black.
They could have kept the silver and black because they went to Vegas where the Raiders are.
Right, but no blue, no royal blue and gold.
All right, I can't be nice and say this. I can't be nice and say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are enough criminals in sports. They wanted to distance themselves from another one. I don't want another team wearing the same colors as Draymond Green. Sorry.
That's kind of where I thought you were going to go with it, but yeah.
Look, there are enough people who make fun of the WNBA. They do not need someone identifying them with a uniform like the donkey from Shrek wears. It's just not good. She ripped him up. I adored that, by the way.
I love that it was Colin Jost basically getting him back for the joke swaps. Because you had to know that was basically plotted that way.
Oh, God, yes. That my favorite is still the Indiana Fever or WNBA team, not what Michael Che gave to multitudes of women at Purdue.
No, the best was, the apron saying, "You don't have a girlfriend."
You don't have a girlfriend, Michael. Her delivery was very good. But I finally watched the entire Beavis and Butthead skit. You sat them together?
Ryan Gosling, you wonderful human being, for being able to do that and not break, and being one of the only people on that set not to break character, considering the last time he was on SNL had one of the greatest character breaks in history.
Is that the one where Kate McKinnon put her face in his ass? That's what I thought. She broke everybody when she did her thing, though.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why
the Bieber
so much.
The Bieber one was the best. So bad. All right, what else we got? Because I know which one I want to get to.
While we're still on the WNBA theme,
Who is the other expansion team?
it's heavily rumored.
Now, here's the thing. We're going to go another pop culture reference. They'd be better off as the Raptors because remember, Clever Girl.
I'm not sure I get the reference.
You never saw Jurassic Park?
I saw it once.
The raptor fools the guy thinking he's somewhere else and then kills him. And right before the raptor kills him, he says "clever girl" and eats his face.
Yeah. I saw it once. There were some of the scenes like when you're watching it on the big screen in the movie theater and you're sitting a little too close, and then it basically the Tyrannosaurus puts its face right up against you. You never kind of watch it again because it's burned into your memory.
Yeah.
And it scares the shit out of you when you're a teenager.
Yeah. I felt that way when I saw Goldblum without a shirt on.
So this is interesting. If they're expected to play in the Coca-Cola Coliseum, formerly the Ricoh Coliseum, that's closer to Hamilton than Toronto.
Yeah, it's closer to Hamilton, but I think they'll sell out every night. I mean, that's where the Raptors played, where they were in that pictures, and look at that.
Because I remember the Ricoh Coliseum is where the Hamilton Bulldogs of the AHL used to play, and I was very familiar with them when I was covering the Barons.
Yeah. I mean, I miss the Cleveland Rockers. I remember, what was it, in the first year of the WNBA, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it was?
Yep. But I will say from everything I've been reading is that when they're looking to expand, Cleveland is nowhere on their radar right now.
Which
they
is
probably
crap.
put them in so many other markets.
Which is crap.
I think Toronto actually would be very good because you want to expand north of the border. I think Golden State, that San Jose, San Francisco area is perfect. Especially
Why not have a team in each city that has an NBA team?
Yeah, but you've also got to be able to grow the league and be able to find it's viable enough to do it. That's why you've actually got a team in Connecticut, but you got no NBA team within several hours with Boston's, and that's why you don't have a Boston WNBA team. It's because it's a much bigger market for so many of the other teams. Connecticut is perfect because they play in stores where UConn plays.
Yeah, and that's the cradle of women's basketball.
They play in Hartford, which is a hop, skip, and a jump from stores.
Yeah. I'm shocked they don't have a WNBA team in some of the bigger college markets. Iowa City would be good with what Iowa's done. Put a team in Charlotte. Or put a team in
Charleston. You do have Charlotte. You got the Charlotte Mystics.
That's right. I thought they were Washington. I thought the Mystics were Washington to go with the Wizards.
You're right. It is Washington. Who is Charlotte's WNBA team? The Sting.
The Sting to go with the Hornets. But okay, so have one in Charlotte. Put one in Charleston. I bet you Dawn Staley would coach that team and it would be insanity.
I agree, but you also have to think of you got to have the staying power as opposed to a temporary flash type thing, because you don't want to put a team in Iowa City now that Caitlin Clark's not there, because Indiana's because of where she ended up. It's not right around the corner, but it's in the same proximity. You don't want to put a team in Charleston because you've already got a successful, founded franchise in Charlotte right now.
Yeah, but you don't have anybody in Georgia. You don't have anybody in Florida, I don't think. Miami's got
Atlanta Dream, I thought.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, yeah, so Charleston would be bad. You've got to put a team in Tennessee. You're putting a team in the Bay Area, Stanford. I mean, you got to be able to, in my opinion, you got to be able to maximize on what women's college basketball has done for the next level.
So let's go right down the pipe here very quickly. You've got teams in Atlanta, Chicago, Connecticut, Indiana, New York, DC, Dallas, Vegas, LA, Minnesota, Phoenix, Seattle, coming to the Bay Area and projected to go to Toronto. Those are all, for 14 markets, that's a pretty decent, chunk right there for a women's pro league. Keep in mind that the PWHL is wrapping up their first season. Their conference semifinals are ending tonight, I think. And there's talk about expanding, but you got no, as much as the women's hockey market has grown in recent years, you've got no team west of Minnesota right now.
I don't know that the PWHL is going to take up on the West Coast as much as moving the Kings to LA did, or having the Kraken, or now in with the the Utah Warren Jeffs, or whatever the hell they're going to be called. The WNBA, at least, you have a model out west. You can. There's a really bad Utah joke in there, Jim. There really is. There's a horrific Utah joke in there. I'm not going to make it. I've already done the Michael Vick thing. But Utah, I think, would support a WNBA team. I think you can go, you have LA, and now you're going to have the Bay Area. You can afford to have a third team in California. The San Antonio, I know Houston's got one. Does San Antonio have one?
Houston used to. They don't anymore. The Comets actually folded.
Dude, they won the first 4 titles.
Yep.
Cynthia Cooper.
They folded a few years ago.
What the fuck? Yeah. I would love to go to a WNBA game because I like watching basketball. I don't like watching guys trying to get on ESPN. So that's, again, why I watch the women's tournament more than I watch the men's tournament. Dude, that's just a ball breaker right there. The only really good team from the outset's really been the Liberty. And that was a cheap shot Sabrina laid on her, by the way.
Yeah.
Here's my existential question for you on that topic. You ready? Why are you going to be pissed at her when she's bringing all this attention to a league that could die?
I don't think it's going to die because a lot of those teams actually have backings from their NBA counterparts. Speaking of which, did you see the new State Farm commercial with Kelsey Plum?
Yes. Yo, Darren Waller's got to be the dumbest son of a bitch alive.
Oh, easily.
She's got her own line of cigars coming out.
Yeah, and let's also keep in mind that until I can't think of her name, the girl that the Sparks just drafted, the one from Stanford.
Oh, Steph Curry's goddaughter?
Yeah, who's absolutely stunning.
She is.
Definitely marketable, and that girl can play. Kelsey Plum is stunning and can play. And Darren Waller might be the dumbest son of a bitch until we actually see if Paul Skeens breaks it off with Olivia Dunn, which I don't think is going to happen because they both went to LSU and know each other very well.
Well, Paul Skeens also started at the Air Force Academy.
Right.
As a catcher and third baseman. Think about that shit. He could be flying jets right now. Instead, he's throwing missiles at the Cubs.
And he's dating easily one of the most beautiful, collegiate athletes there is, who actually, before he got signed a few weeks ago, was making more money than he was and is already like in the top 5 of baseball's wags.
She is still making more money than he is. Between NIL and her social media presence, she's making a ton more money than he is.
There was a report that I read on her Wikipedia page that she got offered $500,000 for a single social media post last July.
Yep. Yeah, she did. That's phenomenal. But Jim, let's get to the good one. Let's get to the real good one.
Well, before we do that, we got to poke fun at one more here.
Oh, okay. Which one are we going to blast here? Did you see the Cardinal ones got leaked?
No, I did not. And hang on, I'm not. Mike, who's bringing the cupcakes?
I don't know, but they do gluten-free funfetti cupcakes, so I am down for that.
I don't have an argument with that.
I do.
I also do not. I really, really like the alternate shoulder patch. The rest of the jersey can eat it.
Here's my thing. That looks more like the Chinichi Dragons logo from the movie Mr. Baseball. Than it does the Dodgers.
Yeah,
it looks like someone tried to.
Shohei led the team in ninth inning doubles in the month of August.
Possibly. That looks more like someone tried to do the "Hi, I'm such and such, and you're watching Disney Channel" and fucked up hard. As far as the rest of it goes, horrific.
And to think, this was their second go around with this. How could they actually do worse than Los Dodgers?
Here's my question: does Phil Knight just fucking hate everyone that's not the University of Oregon?
That's the first thing when I actually saw the post about the Giants. I actually posted on Chris Creamer's Facebook thread about it. That wait a minute, are City Connects now spilling over to the NFL with these things?
No, I don't think the NFL will never do City Connects. Because first of all, the Jets and Giants one would have to be like a Hatfields against McCoys type thing. You'd end up somebody wearing a fucking straw hat, and it just ain't worth it.
And you also couldn't get away with it because you're only wearing the home jerseys 8 times a year.
No, you can't get away with it. You can get away with a throwback every now and again. My personal favorite Jet jersey of all time is that Titans of New York one. The blue one with the yellow that they used to wear every now and again. I love that.
The Brown 75ths were good, but the best thing that they ever could have done was not so much bring back the orange pants, but to be able to keep the color rush as an alternate.
I think the white face mask is better than any color rush they've done. The orange pants with the brown jerseys and the white face mask, I think, is better than anything the Browns have done.
I agree, but I was very, very partial to those, and it's not even so much the Baker factor.
Oh, the all brown color rush from his first ever game. Oh no, I like those two. Can we get this off the screen? It's starting to make me uneasy.
Uneasy or hungry, there's a difference.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
That's what she said.
Beast mode.
That's
what she said would have been hilarious after beast mode too.
But Mike, I guess it's time for the main event.
Let's do the main event. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, the funniest part of this was John Rice thinking Stephen Kwan was a fucking mannequin.
John, we love you, buddy, but man, how out of touch were you with that?
You're taking a fucking bath on that, bro. Is that both?
Dude, that's where we drop you in the dunk tank and close the lid.
Right? That's Josh Naylor, right? And that's Sticks McKenzie next to him?
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about these. First of all, I love the end of the E, the L, and the C. It's the top of the bridge.
Yep.
It's the top of the bridge. Here's what I would have done differently. I would have used Pants' logo as the City Connect logo.
I'm not so sure that you actually would have been able to go that far off the board with a new logo, because you notice on a lot of these, they have not really changed up the logo with them.
And is it just me, or do those hats remind you of the hats from the All-Star game in 2019?
That's absolutely what they remind me of. But my favorite part of these has got to be the 1990s racing stripes on the sleeves.
Yes, that's straight out of Major League.
That's just absolutely stunning. I mean, as bad, and this is not us being homers as Guardians fans. These have easily been, you can say what you want about the CLE all you want. I would have no problem whatsoever them taking the CLE off and using these as a potential alternate in 25 and beyond.
I don't think the
I
CLE
think
should
these
come
are
off.
stunning. You get rid of the stone effect with what you can actually see, on the back half of the sleeve on the left side there on Quan's jersey.
Yeah.
Kind of like the stone effect, like the Mets went with. But I think these were with the white pants, the retro striping, going with the blue. I like the silver aspect in there. The hats match the scheme because they got that White Sox throwback that they've actually started incorporating in recent years with what the Twins have now, because the Twins now have that design on their road helmets.
No, I like that for the nostalgic feel with the racing stripes. I would almost do, how like the armband on the Mets jersey we were talking about was one of the things we both liked.
Yeah.
Put the land right there. It's not sticking out. Like I said, across the front of the jersey because I like the Cavs ones like that. But it not obviously in the opposite sleeve of the Marathon logo, but right there.
Because I know with the players, they have to have them tucked in. With the replica jerseys, you got the jock tag down below. So for lack of a better argument here, you would actually, and I'm going to take this off the screen here for half a second. So you've got your logo down here in the corner, and the
make yourself bigger
right above this.
Yeah, make yourself bigger. There you go.
So the land is written right down here in the same font.
Yeah, I would almost do that would have done that on the sleeve.
But I think that these are easily the nicest ones out of all of them. And I mean, there have been a couple where they're not horrific. I thought that these were extremely well done.
They are extremely well done. This and obviously the Mets are my favorites, but the Mets is more the hat. That's my favorite. I do love the racing stripe. I love the pants. But yeah, no, the Mets.
I'm not 100% keen on using I mean, I understand you've got to be uniform. I don't like the way that the numbers format with the same lettering style on the front. I know that
I like that.
I don't like it.
See, I like that. And the fact that they went for, because the Guardians colors are the Indians colors, but it's not the same. There's the jock tag with the land. I will say this. First of all, I love that it's the bridge. I love that it's the 80s and 90s racing stripes. Oh, I like the socks.
Yeah, but honestly, there's only about 4 or 5 different players on this team that wear the socks up like that.
I know. I see if you look on the right there, they talk about the Tigers ones, which are fucking god awful.
Yeah.
And Marathon is the perfect one to have on there. It really is.
I would almost say actually a better idea would be for them, especially once it's finished being built later on this summer, maybe next year is Sherwin-Williams. Considering their world headquarters is now the one of the new facets of the Cleveland skyline.
Agreed. American Greetings would have been a good one. Again, with the Cavs, I loved the Goodyear logo on the jerseys. But yeah, so my 2 favorites so far. I like the Texas one. The Seattle one reminds me of the team that was in the Kingdome.
Yeah.
The Cardinals one.
I kind of like how they went a little bit with the Pittsburgh route with the city abbreviation, but I think Pittsburgh just basically mailed it in, whereas the Guardians fixed everything that Pittsburgh could have missed out on.
That's because it's Pittsburgh. The St. Louis one, it's the bat with the Cardinals on it. It says the Lou.
Don't say it. I'm going to look it up here right after we go off the air.
Oh, it's fucking terrible.
I really like the Kansas City Monarchs design.
Where is that? Yes. The Washington ones aren't terrible. With the cherry blossoms, they're not great, but they're not terrible. Miami is god awful. Philly looks like a fucking Sunday morning softball league. See, now when you put Cincy and Cleveland next to each other right there, they fit.
I just still think Cincinnati missed the boat by not putting the lettering in red because it's hard to see.
Yeah, no, I think it would have been. Well, actually, it would have been a little too gaudy if they would have put it in red.
I think
about it.
I think Baltimore, Houston, and the Angels just flat out just mailed it in.
Well, the Angels, that's what they had when they first came into the league.
I get that, but I mean, if you're going to say that, you could also say the same thing about the Braves, but at least the Braves updated theirs with a little bit more modern flair on that throwback. So at least they made the effort.
Houston is terrible. The Giants ones are horrible. Tampa is god awful. And not for nothing.
I'm actually interested to see what the Blue Jays are going to come out with next month.
Never mind the Blue Jays. Why are we even going to do one for the Yankees?
I hear that they're not choosing to participate. And it's like, wait a minute, you're going to let them opt out because they're the Yankees? And I can understand maybe Oakland's not going to do one because they're not going to be playing there in 4 months.
You let the Yankees opt out for one simple reason. It is the most iconic uniform and logo in Major League Baseball. And you know how much it pains me to say that.
Yeah, but if the Dodgers can come out with their same jersey and have it say Los Dodgers, you can do the same. If you're the Yankees, you can come up with a similar design to your current.
Yeah, but that wasn't was that their city one? Or was that just theirs?
Last year it was, before they actually decided, no, we want another crack at it, and then they came out with the cupcake jerseys.
I hope that's wrong. Well, Jim, we're 2 hours and 25 minutes in. I think it's time.
Would you shut up and just push the button already? No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the YZ Translator, the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. This is where James and I give each other a name inside or outside the sports world, and the first thing that pops into our minds is what we spit out to each other. And again, the YZ Translator Hall of Fame began over a year ago with Sonika Wallace and just went into many other things, including Kyrie Irving, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and many different versions of Caleb Williams. So, James, I have the task, as it were, of giving you the first name every week. I'm going to give you that first name this week, and I'm going to put a little context on it. There is a player for the New York Knicks who has been upgraded to questionable for Game 7 tomorrow, and your first name in the YZ Translator, James, is OG Anunoby.
Not who I thought you were going to give me, but basically at this particular point, who on their roster doesn't have some sort of injury issue? And at this particular point, is it really going to matter?
I hope not. I don't want them in the next round. Unless they're going to get embarrassed by it's because I don't win there. It's the Celtics and the Knicks. Fuck them.
I mean, if anything, we've got to be thanking Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers because we could have had Boston and New York in both the NBA and the NHL at the same time, starting on Tuesday.
That's draw a bullseye on your desk and bang your fucking head against it repeatedly. That's all that is. Who you got for me, bud?
Michael, your first name in the YZ translator, we've had some fun with him tonight. I'd like you to expand on him a little bit more.
Please?
One Mr. Harrison Butker.
Look, I know the man who wears diapers is looking for a running mate, but Harrison, you're a fucking kicker. This is the Mike Vanderjagt thing all over again.
Except he's got better accuracy.
Never mind that. He wasn't liquored up. Good God. Your mom is a physicist. I hope she smacks the fuck out of you.
Oh, well, I was actually thinking about it. One more thing I actually forgot to put into the thread count. I originally had it out and then it somehow, some way it got cut off. Remember how we talked a couple of weeks ago that the NHL jerseys are now being made by Fanatics starting next season? There's actually a report that those could debut on ice in time for the Stanley Cup Finals next month.
This ought to be good. Speaking of Fanatics, you see they're suing Marvin Harrison Jr.
I just saw that. I didn't read the full story. What cue me in.
Basically, what Fanatics was doing.
Contract?
Yeah, well, basically what Fanatics is doing is they're getting sophomores in college to sign away the last 2 years of school and the first 2 years in the NFL. So the royalties they pay them are not as high as guys who are more established. Harrison, at the urging of his father, did not sign the deal. He has not signed his NFLPA licensing agreement because he wants Fanatics to pony up. And now they're suing him.
So he's trying to get his NIL money before he signs his NFL contract.
No, he's trying to get them to pay him what his name is worth now instead of trying to pay him back on the scale they were going to give him as an unknown sophomore in college.
Okay.
Because the money's the same, apparently. And he's like, no, I'm the number 4 pick in the draft. You're going to pay me more. Not unheard of. So, James, your second name in said YZ translator is I'm going to go here, and it's someone else we have spoken of already. Your name is Scotty Scheffler.
Boy fell apart today, basically falling out of contention, and he's going to be, this is probably the main reason why you're not going to see the state of Kentucky host a major for a very, very long time, because this was mishandled all the way around, and this was also shaping up to be one of the best weekends in major championship history in the last 5 years.
I agree. As far as Kentucky hosting major things, speaking of, we will not have a Triple Crown winner, as Mystic Dan finished second today at the Preakness. But who we got for me to close it out, Jim?
Mike, your second name, he just actually had himself a hell of a night. Luka Doncic.
I may have had a hell of a night, but I still want to know why one of my teammates was banging a broad in the friggin' locker room and I had to hear about it in my press conference.
Boy had himself a triple.
Did you see that?
7 in a game 6.
Tell me you saw that.
No.
Luka is at the table after one of the other games, one of the ones they lost, and a woman starts moaning like she's mid-coitus, and everybody picks it up.
And the funny thing is I'm going to have to go to the dark webs to be able to find this, because there's no reputable news organization that has not probably censored that audio by now. And
Hold
we
on.
cannot play this on the air. Mike,
You don't see nothing.
Michael, we cannot play this on the air.
How'd you know I was looking for it?
Michael, we cannot play. Michael, shut up. Michael, shut up. We've done this twice before. Michael, shut up.
Listen, you can say going in hard and 69 in the same sentence. I can play the Luca clip.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Fine, you don't get that clip now.
You're a dick. I'll find it on my own. I won't be able to find it on my own. I'm looking for this and I'm sending it to you.
I'm actually going to mash those up because I can't play one without the other.
Oh, God. We have to do that. And at the end, have a delay. That's what she said.
That could work. And there's another mashup we could actually do.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Wrong!
That's beautiful. I got to find this. Okay, there it is.
Michael, you are not getting us thrown off of YouTube. You will send it to me off the air.
How about this?
Michael?
How about this?
Michael?
We'll stay on after, and I'll play it for you after.
That could work.
Okay. So,
am I going to have to report you to Kurt Angle next week for not having intelligence, intellect, and integrity?
I have the 3 eyes. Technically, now I have 4.
I got mine. I got my exam on Tuesday. They'll be here in 2 weeks.
Oh, nice. So are you using the same frames again so we can look alike? Or
basically, yeah, except the lenses I think are a little bit more rounded as opposed to square.
Gotcha.
There's something I actually have to tell you about off air as well that actually could work with these.
Okay, cool. So James, in the theme of the NFL, we have a short turnaround this week. Thursday night, May the 23rd, episode 71. We get deeper into our elderly status with a special Thursday night episode because, quite honestly, Jim and I don't want to do shit Memorial Day weekend. Being brutally honest.
And me for obvious reasons, but we will not touch that now.
It was a year ago this time I did the roast of JC Blue.
Shut up!
And brought you into the Ohio State fight song.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
But we will be coming to you live Thursday night on the 23rd. We are going to get into picks for said conference finals as they will just have gotten underway. Also, we've got a baseball episode at some point coming up because we really have not touched the first month, and by the time we get to it, it'll be the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah, it'd be a good time to break down because we're officially at the quarter pole. All teams are basically hitting the quarter pole this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So we're that many games in, and we haven't talked about it. But then again, I don't want to talk about it at all. Edwin Diaz is doing his best Emmanuel Clase impersonation.
And it's one of the few bright spots that there is. Before we go, can we just talk about the one thing that you and I talked about this week? What in the hell is Ellie De La Cruz thinking, like trying to go after Ricky Henderson's all-time record in one season?
I'm going to say this. He's got 30 home run power. He is on pace right now for a 40-90 season. Think about that. Think about what Acuna did last year was phenomenal. This dude's shooting for 100 bags. When's the last time someone stole 100 bags, Jim?
And let's go back to the Paul Skeens analogy, is because you've got two really good young talents in two markets that have historically been around for over 100 years, have not been very successful outside of they're basically kind of the Cleveland Browns. They've been afterthoughts. They've been historically great throughout the years, and the sport is better when they're successful. Between now Skeens coming up with the Pirates, who are just a few games out of first place, and De La Cruz, who's only got 9 jacks on the year for a guy who hits 450-foot swamp donkeys on a regular basis if he wants to.
Thank you, Les Steroid.
And he's already swiped more than 30 bags, where the next closest guy has only got 18.
I mean, it's unreal. The 4 stolen base night the other night was one of the more epic things I've ever seen. That's not cool. That's just fucking wrong.
2 of those didn't even have a throw.
If he goes 30-90, never mind that. Does he win the MVP if he swipes 100 bags?
I don't know. They got to get into some level of contention. They got to be in the wild card chase.
If he's swiping 100 bags, they most certainly will be. We're going to save the next part of that conversation for next week.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of it I want to say to you. I'm not going to do it now. It has to do with our friend, Mr. King of JUCO's arch nemesis. Next week.
But next week we'll talk some baseball. We'll tear into a few other things. We got our conference championship previews. We'll probably talk about the god-awful Cardinals jerseys that Mike is alluding to here. And we're going to actually enjoy a nice long holiday weekend.
Yes, we are. And mine is longer than most.
Yeah. Whose butt did you have to kiss to be able to get that gig? So,
well, Bobby's last day of school is Thursday.
So you get the extra long weekend, but I actually was off
all last week.
That previous Friday, all this week, come back, basically answer emails for the first clean out my email inbox the first 2 days I'm back, do a training class half of Wednesday, and then Thursday's kind of a getaway day because I'm off next Friday, where I actually go to meet Mr. Kurt Angle.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It also will be our old friend, Mr. Josh Prohibition, his final match.
Really?
Ironically enough, we will be watching this match at the Cleveland Masonic Auditorium on 36th and Euclid. 27 years ago this month, Adam, Frank, Jeff Baltitis, and I were at the Masonic Auditorium for the first ever ECW show in Cleveland.
I remember that.
Frank and Adam sat ringside. It was the first ever matchup between Jerry Lynn and Rob Van Dam before they had their legendary pay-per-view battles against each other over Van Dam's television title. You could actually see Frank and Adam asking Jerry Lynn if he wanted an aspirin after taking a Van Daminator on the guardrail at ringside. Baltitis and I were up near the top, and we snuck down to about 8 rows from the floor.
I remember you telling me about that.
We ended up, that is actually where our band that never got off the ground, Rolock, was formed in a Denny's at 2 a.m.
The one on Wilson Mills?
Yep. Where the legendary Ballad of Britney Spears and the Ballad of the Food Network were both written. And then the infamous one, I think I've told on this show, and I can't remember if it was Alex or John who was with us. Baltitis actually wrote a song called Bill Cosby is Pudding Dripping from His Balls. That might have been Alex.
That was Patrick.
Okay. Yeah, but we will be back there for Absolute Intense Wrestling's annual Gauntlet for the Gold, their version of the Royal Rumble, Friday night, and in attendance, signing autographs will be WWE Hall of Famer and 1996 Olympic gold medalist, Mr. Kurt Angle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You should enjoy the hell out of that. So we will see you guys Thursday night on our channel at 9 p.m. And enjoy your week. We'll see you in a few days.
Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the PGA tomorrow, and also enjoy all the Game 7s, Mike.
Yeah, right.